Week 4, Goal Setting and Prioritization. Welcome back to Week 4 of our Personal Growth Series. This week, we're diving into something that truly separates dreams from reality, goal setting and prioritization. I'm Barbara Schnarr, Giatti, and I'm glad you're here. Every week, we come together to grow and glow, living more fully, more consciously as we glow from the inside out. This is week 4 of 12 of the Giatti Glow Life Coach series. If you're following along in my 12-week life coaching book, that's fantastic. If you don't have the book, that's absolutely fine, but you'll definitely want something to write with and write on. If you'd like to get the book, just go to the section of Giatti Glow where you found this podcast, and there will be a link to my 12 life coach sessions for coaches and individuals book on Amazon. Or you can just go to Amazon and search for Schnarr Coach. That's Schnarr Coach. Schnarr is my maiden name, and that's what I used for these books. If you've ever felt like you're spinning your wheels, this episode is for you. Because setting goals is only half the story. The real results come when you learn how to prioritize and follow through on them. So grab a notebook, or my book, get comfortable, and let's talk about how to turn your vision into action. Part 1. Why goals matter. Let's start with the basics. Why do we even need goals? Goals are like a compass. Without them, even the best intentions can drift off course. You might have all the motivation in the world, but when you don't know where you're headed, it's easy to lose direction. Goals give your life shape and focus. They're the bridge between where you are right now and where you want to be. They give your energy a purpose, a clear why that fuels your daily choices. Think about the difference between saying, I want to be healthier versus, I want to walk 3 miles every morning before work. One is a wish and the other is a plan. When you define goals, you're taking your dreams out of the clouds and anchoring them into something real, measurable, and achievable. Setting goals brings 3 big benefits. The first one is clarity. It transforms vague desires into clear targets. The second is motivation. Having defined goals keeps you focused, especially when the initial excitement wears off. And third is measurement. You can track your progress, celebrate wins, and make adjustments along the way. And those celebrations, big or small, are what keep you going. Every time you check off a milestone, you're reinforcing your belief that, yes, you actually can do this. Part 2. The power of prioritization. Here's where many people get stuck. They set goals, maybe even a lot of them, and then they wonder why progress feels slow or scattered. That's where prioritization comes in. You see, not all goals are created equal. Some may move the needle towards your long-term vision, but others just keep you busy. Prioritization is the art of focusing your time and energy where it matters most. When you learn to prioritize, you stop trying to do everything and start trying to do the right things. Think of your time and energy as limited resources, like currency. You want to invest them where they'll bring the biggest return. Maybe your biggest dream right now is to write a book, or start a business, or improve your health. You'll always have competing demands: family, work, social life. But prioritization helps you make the decisions that align with your top values. It's about doing what matters most instead of just doing more. Part 3. A reflection moment. Let's take a quick reflection break. Think back to a time when you successfully achieved a goal. Maybe it was getting your degree, or running a marathon, or paying off a debt, or even something smaller like sticking to a morning routine or finally cleaning out your closet. What made it possible? Now, think of a time when a goal didn't work out. Maybe it faded away or you lost motivation. What got in the way? Was it unclear priorities? Lack of time? Or maybe the goal didn't really align with your values after all. This would be a great time to pause this podcast and take a moment to identify patterns. What works for you and what doesn't. You can write them out or just think about it, but maybe take a little pause here. Part 4, SMART Goals, Turning Vision into Action. So let's move from the why and into the how. You've probably heard of SMART goals. It's one of the most effective frameworks for creating goals that actually work. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. So let's go through an example. Say your goal is, I want to get fit. Great. Nice thought, but it's pretty vague. So let's make it a SMART goal. Specific. I want to run a 5K. Measurable. I'll track my running pace and distance each week. Achievable. I'll start with short runs 3 times a week and build up gradually. Relevant. This goal supports my value of health and my vision of an active lifestyle. Time bound. I'll complete a 5K within 3 months. You see the difference? So an abstract idea turns into a step-by-step plan. SMART goals help you clarify what success looks like and how you'll get there. If you want, go ahead and pause again for a minute and write down 3 goals you'd like to achieve. Then apply the SMART framework to refine each one. So again, SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Part 5, Prioritization in Practice. Once you've got your goals, the next step is to figure out what to do first. So a really great tool for this is called the Eisenhower Matrix. The Eisenhower Matrix divides your tasks into 4 categories. The first one is urgent and important. These are your deadlines and crises. They are things that need your immediate attention. Number 2 is not urgent, but important. Think of these as long-term goals. Things like learning new skills, maintaining relationships, planning ahead, those kind of things. Number 3 is urgent, but not important. These are tasks that demand attention, but don't move you forward, like emails or minor requests. And the 4th one is neither urgent nor important. So these are things that are time wasters, like endless scrolling or other distractions. You know, most people spend most of their time in quadrant 2, the important but not urgent zone. This is where long-term growth happens. So take a look at your task list for the week. Which activities belong to which category? What can you delegate or even just drop altogether? You'd be amazed at the mental space that frees up when you stop treating every task as equally important. Part 6, the 80-20 rule. Working smarter, not harder. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful principles for achieving more with less effort, the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. This simple idea has the potential to completely transform the way you approach your goals, your time, and your energy. The 80-20 rule suggests that roughly 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. In other words, a small portion of what you do actually creates the majority of your outcomes. When you think about it, you'll see this everywhere. Let's take a few examples. So, if you run a business, you might notice that 20% of your clients bring in 80% of your revenue. Or if you're a student, maybe 20% of the material you study accounts for 80% of your exam questions. In your personal life, it might be that 20% of your relationships bring you 80% of your joy and support. Or 20% of your daily habits like getting enough sleep, eating well, taking the time to plan your day, stuff like that, lead to 80% of your productivity and happiness. The pattern is consistent. A small number of key actions produce the greatest impact. So what does this mean for you and your goals? It means that not everything you do carries equal weight. Some of your efforts matter a lot more than others. The key is to working smarter, not harder, and to identify that vital 20% and to double down on it. Let's take fitness for an example. You might be trying to get stronger or to lose weight, but you're spending hours researching supplements and new workout gear and new diets. And most of your progress will likely come from just a few core habits: regular movement, nutritious meals, staying hydrated, and getting enough rest. You could spend 10 hours a week worrying about the details, or 2 hours focusing on what really moves the needle. Here's another example. Imagine you're a writer trying to grow your audience online. You post on every social media platform, trying to do it all, but you notice that most of your engagement comes from just one or two places, maybe Instagram or your email newsletter. That's your 20%. That's where your energy should go. When you identify your vital few actions, the ones that truly matter, you free yourself from the pressure of doing everything, and you start doing what counts. The results are that you will become more productive, less stressed, and more intentional with your time. Now, of course, the 80-20 ratio isn't always exact. Sometimes it's 70-30 or 90-10. The point isn't the numbers, it's the principle. A small number of inputs create the majority of outputs. So let's make this practical. Here's a short reflection exercise you can try. Again, maybe even pause and think about this for a moment. I want you to ask yourself, what are the few activities that produce most of my results? What tasks drain my time and energy but bring me little reward? If I could only do 3 things this week to move closer to my goals, what would they be? You might be surprised by what you discover. For example, if your goal is to grow your career, your vital 20% might include networking with key mentors, improving your core skill set, spending an hour each week refining your portfolio. If your goal is better mental health, your vital few might be morning meditation or journaling, or simply saying no to unnecessary stressors. When you identify these powerful actions, you can begin to design your days around them. And here's how that might look. Audit your current efforts. Write down everything you're doing to pursue your goals, big or small. Write it all out. Highlight what's working. Which tasks or habits bring the best results and make you feel most fulfilled? Then eliminate or delegate all the rest of them. Some tasks might feel urgent, but they don't actually contribute anything. Let them go or find somebody else to handle it. And the last part of this is going to be reinvest your energy. Use the time you free up to focus even more on deeply held and high impact actions. When you live by this 80-20 rule, you give yourself permission to simplify. You stop measuring your worth by how busy you are and start measuring it by how effective you are. It's about intentional effort, not just constant motion. Sometimes working harder just means spinning your wheels faster, but working smarter, that's when you actually move forward. Part 7, breaking goals down. Even the best goals can feel intimidating when they're too big. Secret, break them down. I'm going to give you 4 steps to breaking down goals. 1, define the end result. What does the success actually look like? 2, Identify milestones. What key achievements will tell you you're on the right track? 3. List specific tasks. What actions do you need to take for each milestone? And 4. Set deadlines. When will you complete each step? So let's use an example. Let's say your goal is to write a book in 1 year. So let's do a timeline. Month 1, complete the outline. Months 2 through 8, write the first draft. Months 9 through 11, edit and revise. And month 12, publish or submit to a publisher. When you break it down like this, the goal becomes much less overwhelming and much more achievable. So remember when I had to do those SMART goals? Why don't you take those, or just take one of them actually, and write it down and then outline it with smaller steps. Part 8, overcoming common challenges. So let's take a moment to talk about something that every single person on the journey towards their goals experiences: challenges. Even when you've set clear, meaningful goals, even when you've mapped out the perfect plan, life has a way of throwing obstacles in your path, and that's okay. Because the challenges aren't signs that you're failing, they're signs that you're growing. Think about it. Every meaningful goal you've ever achieved probably came with some moments of doubt, frustration, or resistance. And these moments aren't there to stop you, they're there to strengthen you. Myself, when I got my bachelor's degree the very last semester, I thought, do I really want this degree? Like, what am I going to do with it? What's going to happen? I don't know. But I finished it, and it's really helped me out, and I'm glad I did it. But there was some challenging moments of, should I change my major even in the last semester? Let's talk about some other common roadblocks that you might encounter and how to move through them with clarity and confidence. The first one would be feeling overwhelmed. We all know this feeling. When your to-do list seems endless and everything feels urgent, and you look at your goals and think, where do I even start? And so you don't start, right? This is pretty common, especially for people like myself who dream big. When everything feels like too much, your first instinct might be to freeze. But a key thing you can do to break through the overwhelm is simplification. Start by breaking your goal down into the smallest possible steps. If your goal is to write a book, don't think about writing 60,000 words. Think about writing a paragraph, then a page, then a chapter. If your goal is to get healthier, don't try to overhaul your entire diet and workout routine overnight. Start with one small change. Maybe drinking more water or a 10-minute walk each morning. Each small step helps you build momentum. And momentum is what replaces overwhelm with confidence. It's an old saying, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need to see the next right step. So 2 would be struggling with motivation. So let's talk about motivation. We all have days when the enthusiasm fades. Maybe you started strong, but now that initial excitement is worn off and showing up feels harder. Motivation naturally fluctuates. It's perfectly normal. The trick is to not depend on motivation, but to design your environment and habits so progress happens anyway. A powerful way to reignite motivation is to revisit your why. Ask yourself, why did I set this goal in the first place? What's the deeper reason behind it? If your goal is to start your own business, maybe your why is freedom. Freedom to create, or to spend more time with your family, or financial freedom, or to design your own schedule. If your goal is to get fit, maybe your why is longevity, to feel strong or healthy for the people you love, or to prove to yourself that you can do the hard things. When you reconnect with that deeper purpose, your motivation shifts from the external pressure to the internal drive. You're no longer just ticking off a checkbox. You're doing something that truly matters to you. And when you have those days that motivation just feels out of reach, remember, discipline will carry you farther than inspiration ever could. The third one would be fear of failure. This is a big one. This one holds a lot of people back. You might worry, what if I try it and it doesn't work out? Or what if I disappoint myself or others? Here's the truth. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every person who's achieved something meaningful in this world has stumbled, adjusted, and tried again. Thomas Edison famously said, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. Each misstep teaches you something valuable. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of asking, why did this happen to me, try asking, what is this teaching me? Maybe the timing wasn't right, or your strategy needs tweaking. Maybe you learn more about your strengths or your limits. Each setback refines you. It doesn't define you. Number 4, losing focus. And finally, let's just touch on this other challenge here, losing focus. We live in a world of distractions. Notifications, emails, endless scrolling, kids, spouse, work, everything. Everything is competing for your attention, right? And when your attention is scattered, when you can't focus, your progress slows. So to remedy this, you need to address the distractions intentionally. Try creating small rules that help you stay centered. Maybe you start your day by writing down your 3 top priorities. And you end your day reflecting on what went well and what can improve. If you find yourself drifting off track, pause and say, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to my goals? That one question can help you recenter your focus and remind you of your purpose. Let's think about a goal you've struggled with in the past. What specific challenges got in the way? Did you feel overwhelmed? Was it lack of motivation? Was it fear or distraction? Now imagine the same challenge again, but this time you have the tools, awareness, and compassion for yourself. How might you approach it differently? What could you do today that your past self didn't know how to do? Let's think on that for a moment. Because growth doesn't come from facing obstacles. It comes from learning how to move through them with grace, persistence, and self-trust. Part 9, accountability and tracking. Let's talk about one of the most underestimated tools for success, accountability. No matter how self-disciplined you are, it's human nature to stay more consistent when someone else knows what you're trying to do. Accountability transforms your goals from private ideas into shared commitments. Think about it. How many times have you promised yourself you'd start something tomorrow, only to push it off to tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow? But when you tell someone else about your plans, something changes. You've created a kind of energetic contract, a promise that exists outside your own mind. And it doesn't mean pressure or guilt, it just means support. Accountability can take many forms. Maybe you share your goal with a close friend who checks on it weekly. Maybe you join an online group of people working towards something similar, or maybe you hire a coach or a mentor who helps you stay on track. If your goal is to write a novel, you could join a writing circle where everyone commits to submitting a few pages every week. If you're building a business, you might find an accountability partner who you meet on Zoom every Friday to discuss wins, roadblocks, next steps, etc. And don't underestimate the power of self-accountability. Keep a simple progress log. Jot down your daily wins. It helps build self-trust, and it tells your brain, I am someone who follows through. What gets measured gets managed. Part 10, balancing multiple goals. Now let's talk about something everybody struggles with. It's balancing multiple goals. We live in a world that glorifies doing it all. Hustle culture tells us we can have a career and relationships and perfect health and side hustles and daily self-care and go to meditation retreats and everything, all before breakfast. But the truth is, you can do anything, just not everything at the same time. When you try to focus on too many things, your energy becomes diluted. You're busy, but not necessarily effective. So instead, think in seasons. Each season of your life will have 1 to 3 core priorities, not 10. Maybe this season is about rebuilding your health, or maybe it's about deepening relationships, or launching a business, or learning to go to sleep at night without your brain going in 80 different directions. Whatever it is, give it your full attention. You can still make progress in other areas, of course, but let your energy center around what truly matters most right now. One powerful technique for balance is time blocking. So instead of multitasking, give each goal its own window of focus. Here's an example. For fitness, say from 7 to 8 a.m., I'm going to walk or do some stretching or workout. And then from 9 to 12, work on your creative or professional work and give that your focus. And say maybe in the evenings, that's when I'm going to work on my relationships and rest and personal growth. So you're not trying to do everything all at the same time. And you can let things go. You can keep the fitness that you're working on, and that's one particular part of the day, for example, 7 to 8 a.m. And you can work on your relationships in the evenings instead of thinking about that while you're working on your fitness. Time blocking doesn't only structure your day, it also protects your energy. When you know each part of your life has its own little space, you stop feeling pulled in every direction. You don't need to hit every target every day. Some days will flow beautifully and others will be messy. It's okay. Done is better than perfect. Progress beats pressure every single time. Above everything else, protect your energy. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? Rest is not a luxury or reward, it's a requirement. And true productivity isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about doing what matters most with the calm and clarity to enjoy it. Part 11, alignment. So now we come to this final and most important piece of this entire episode, alignment. You can have beautifully organized goals, crystal clear plans, and perfect productivity systems. But what if what you're chasing doesn't align with who you truly are? If it doesn't, you'll always feel sort of this little tug of discontentment. Alignment means your goals match your values. It means that you're working towards feeling authentic and not just impressive. So ask yourself, does this goal move me closer to the life I actually want? Does it reflect what truly matters to me, not what I think should matter? And when I picture myself achieving it, do I feel peace, joy, pride, or do I feel drained, anxious, and disconnected? These questions are powerful because they help you separate genuine desire from outside expectations. Maybe you've been chasing a goal that once fit, but doesn't anymore. That's okay. Growth can mean outgrowing what used to make sense, but doesn't anymore. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to let go. True success isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more aligned. The life that feels right for you might not look like anyone else's. When your goals line up with your purpose, your energy expands. You stop forcing things and you start flowing with them. So, right now, take a deep breath, close your eyes for a moment, and imagine your ideal day. Not somebody else's fantasy version of success, but a day that feels right. What are you doing? Who are you with? How do you feel? That image is your compass. Let it guide your goals, choices, and growth. Because when your actions align with your values, that's when fulfillment begins. And that's the real goal. Part 12, closing thoughts. So, goal setting and prioritization aren't just productivity tools, they're life design tools. When you set smart goals, prioritize wisely, and stay flexible, you take charge of your future. Remember to celebrate your progress, adjust your plan when needed, and most of all, keep going, even when things feel slow. Every step counts, and every small effort compounds. One day, you'll look back and realize that the life you were living is the one you once dreamed of because you dared plan it, prioritize it, and take action. So thank you for joining me in week 4. I hope this episode inspires you to not only set meaningful goals, but to structure your life around what truly matters most. Next week, we'll be talking about time management and productivity. Until then, keep your focus sharp, your priorities clear, and your heart aligned with your vision. You got this. Giatti Glow is powered by the Life Coach Store, which is owned by me, Barb Giatti. On my website, you can find all kinds of great resources for over 20 types of wellness coaches. Check out thelifecoach.store for more information.